You're tuned into Taiwan Grooves. Let's explore the local music scene. Hello and welcome back. Thanks for tuning into today's episode where we're going to continue our interview with talented Steev Kindwald, who has immersed himself in the folk and tribal music of Asia in the last 2 decades. In the first part of the interview, Steev talked about different flutes and their functions, his desert life, and how does one even come to an instrument like this. We ended the last week's discussion on a note how and where Steev got his first flute. We're going to pick it up where we left off and continue from here.
Everything has the quality. I would love to have had a magnificent pair when I started, but it really forced me to work hard, in fact. So when we begin practicing the training, I learned I was sort of habituated. My habits became really to practice 5 to 8 hours a day. Definitely.
Wow.
Definitely. Because I wanted to, appreciate and understand. Now my practice is maybe down to 2 to 5 hours a day. And a slow day is maybe 1 hour. But anyway, so that allows you a kind of a devotion, if you will, and appreciation. Like actually now I'm not playing well, I would say, very frankly. This is warming up, but we want to give you the best that can be done and with care.
And with time's restraint. Sorry about that.
No, let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy.
Definitely. It sounded good to me, so no worries about that. All right. I would like to ask, can an instrument like this, you said it needs to be repaired, retuned, meaning that the instrument can go out of tune?
Yeah, well, when you get it from the maker, there's a lot of techniques to make sure you don't get a great flute, right? So the makers are very playful, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something a very old master keyed me into. He lived very deep in the desert, this fella. He had plenty of money, but his interest was living deep in the desert. Looked very poor, but everyone said he has so much money you can't imagine. So this is the masters. They choose to live simply and with animals and in the desert because they love it. So he keyed me and I said, everything's a little funny sounding. He said, yeah, that's the technique. Yeah, you need to work it out yourself. So you'd get something that was good, but something's wrong with it, kind of. So you need to be clever enough to know how to just adjust the holes, adjust the block itself. We put some piece of metal underneath the cutting edge. They're always kind of in flux, these instruments, which is rather interesting. So it kind of pushes you to be present, right? You're not just going to get the plug and play. Can I use a 2020 word set? Plug and play will not be the case for most of them. So even now, a lot of non-native players do find them frustrating because they respond very strongly to humidity and heat, coldness, dryness. So I think actually in the past, a lot of scales are known for weather depictions. So I think the flutes may have actually been used, this is maybe a mystic perception, they might have been used to predict weather, right? Because they do respond very strongly to weather changes.
Wow.
So that can be real frustrating when you're on tour, I'll tell you. Yeah, so that's the charm. The charm.
Did you learn the hard way?
Oh,
Going
yes.
to a very moist environment.
You're in front of 5,000 people, it's 11 degrees and wildly humid and cold for the flutes, and they go out of tune. You say, excuse me, friends, let's have a little nice sort of wordplay while I retune my flutes. So that tests the musician to its strong degree. But that's also good. And people find it charming as well. Like it shows a humanity, right, in this sort of alien or very unusual sound that's familiar. Right, somehow. It shows you humanity when everything just doesn't want to work. And then when there's 2, they're tricky. When there's 3, they're real tricky.
Yeah, I mean, 2 already looks insanely difficult, and there you are adding the 3rd one.
Well, that's the fun of it.
It is. As you said, that's the concept of getting better and trying new things. And I like the concept that you want to bring something new to the environment. You've been trained by people, and you want to give back with something.
Yes.
Beautiful. When you said there's modification and something that needs to be done from the buyer, let's say, would you call it that it's like very objective modification, so it would sound good to everybody, or would you specifically put more wax than someone else and stuff like that?
Certainly, yes, that is a very important detail. One master I know Study would be stretching the point with him, but I could hang out with him. We could say I could spend time with him because the people are very wild. They tend to be the better they are, the more wild they tend to be. So this gentleman he was a shepherd and became very much a well-known professional double flute player and maker. He liked a lot of wax over the embouchure, so his sound is very windy and he blows very, very hard, for example. He has this quality when his flutes are like designed for people who have a lot of physical strength and mental strength to hold on. And he said what we're looking for is the all night sets. That's what he calls them, the all night sets. The set of flutes that you're able to play all night for the ceremonies, for the festivals. So that requires a lot of physical stamina and instruments that are wildly stable and have the ability to kind of retune on the fly.
Right.
So there's various tunings. I count around 9 to 14 different drone tunings, depending on the songs that you're using. And then it depends on the fingering you're using. So it's pretty vast. And generally people are using 1 to 2 or 3 tunings commonly. But there is a great deal. So you're doing a lot of transposition. So these are people who are non-writing and we can say illiterate, we would call them, but who speak a number of languages fluently. So the music has that quality to it because it's not written. So there's an enormous amount of variety from village to village, from master to master. I can often hear what caste they spend their time with because they may actually spend time with another caste of musicians, but they're of another caste. So you can hear their influences, like you can hear jazz musicians, you can hear their influences. So I asked one master, I said, you're this caste, but you do sound different. And he said, yes. He said, my teachers are actually from another caste because I prefer their music. So that was really fascinating because I didn't know, but I picked up, definitely he sounded different than the others. And he said, I spend time with this caste because I like them. I like their music, and I think their language is charming. And they have all these very strong cultural links. So that is where you're going deeper into it. That goes far beyond the music itself.
It's like little branches, roots, putting it together.
And they're extensive.
Very good.
And they're extensive. So it would be like jazz if jazz existed for 5,000 years. Right? That's what you would get,
Wow.
So the double flutes themselves in this form are probably fairly modern, honestly. They may have existed I've heard really only 70, 80 years, I've heard. But I think that may be untrue from my museum work. I work in a museum in Berlin, and we do have an old pair there from what is today Pakistan. So the oldest I've seen that is verified would be around 120 years, which is not that old. However, the older ones are from cane, and they're very short, and they're more...
cane, like from sugar cane?
No, cane like river cane.
Oh, okay.
Right? They'd be from river cane, which the Indus Valley, as you would imagine from a river that moves around, cane has a very long history here from ancient Egyptian times. So that would be from a type of cane, river cane, and actually a poisonous, when it's wet, poisonous sort of very soft invasive wood called akara, which is no longer poisonous once you use it. And you can make them on the fly, so to speak. So that would be these. If I could show a little sample, would you like that?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
So they're more primitive, more edgy sounding, and they would be very much, they're tied by string to be worn around the neck, and that would be the shepherd flute.
Just like nunchucks, if you guys can imagine.
Right, musical nunchucks. Peaceful nunchucks.
Peaceful, yeah.
Right.
It's for uniting, not dividing.
Right, yes. So music and art in general is for uniting people, and that is a very useful skill in this time.
Definitely. Much needed. All right, so we heard these, and again, there's one drone, one chanter.
Yes.
Okay, so it's double flutes. Now, let me ask you, speaking about wind instruments, these all count as wind instruments, correct?
Yes.
And there's a countless different types. Is there a subcategory? How would you divide them?
Oh, wind instruments in general,
Well,
or double flutes particularly.
so double flutes would be one, or flute under. They would go under flutes, right?
Yeah, they would be. These are recorder flutes, like a black flute. The black goes in and it splits the air.
Right.
And black flutes are dated to something around 23,000 years in archaeological finds.
Wow.
Yeah. My understanding, but that may be wrong. The more corrected dates perhaps is around 12 to 18,000 years.
Still.
Dolny Vestonice is where the oldest black flutes are found in fragments with a resin block itself. So they did exist since quite a long time.
Right.
Maybe long before, but that's what we have fragments of. So you basically, you have a cutting edge, right? And then you put a block in order to control that cutting edge.
Mm-hmm.
And then they one flute's nice and two flute is nicer. So it's more fun. And then with a drone, in this case, because you're dealing with Indian subcontinent music is drone based, you would have one note, and then you can retune the drone in many, many ways as well. So you have a whole repertoire based on, so each drone you may know 5 songs or so, 5 pieces, because they vary a lot. And then the mother of this would be nar, which is the 4-hold, an open-hold flute, which is coming probably from ancient Egypt, either through Iran or up through whatever, the Gulf of Aden and such, from Egypt upwards.
Right.
So that would be the 4-hold ancient flute it would come from. That's the mother of all. So these would be double flutes based on a whistle, based on a block. There's old finds from late period Egypt, which did exist as singles. And the story is that they migrated in from Iran. That's what the local people will tell, Persia, whatever, today Iran. That's what local people will tell me.
All right, so now you speak about double flute. Now, if I were to look at the instrument you have behind you, the beautiful blue pole.
The beautiful blue pole. So this is a whole other thing. This is hyper modern, yet very ancient feeling or sounding. And this would be what I term the jajbina. And jajbina is simply an empty water pipe, right? And I sharpen one of the edges and I blow on it as a large style flute oblique or a type of ney. So I have to create my lips in a certain way. So if my lips move 1 millimeter, it changes the sound. So it requires a lot of practice and control. And like where you're from, Slovakia, this is a large harmonic pipe, right? Like a fujara. Right? So this would be a large harmonic pipe. It's around, I don't know, a meter 7, something like that. A little under 2 meters. So one edge is sharpened. It's beautiful blue, if that matters.
Sparkly.
If I call this the jajbina. Jaj is would be basically Hindi or Marwari word for flight, right? And then bina would be referring actually to gourds or something you blow, right? So that would be like something that you would blow into that flies, and that's this.
Wonderful. All right, we got double flute.
Right.
Would this be considered a single flute?
This would, yeah, single. It's basically an obliquely blown harmonic pipe. I guess that would be the term. Because in English, really, there are no terms, but essentially it's blown obliquely. It's just simply an open tube with a sharpened edge, right? And that edge really changes the sound a lot.
Yeah.
So that's the magic, we can say. And then I'm using, plastic. We cannot say it's purely an ecologic material, but I've made these from bamboo and from wood and such. And I did find that the plastic, because it's very smooth inside, it responds the strongest and best. Glass is wonderful, but extremely hard to carry around.
Right.
And metal is excellent, but again, quite heavy and hard to carry around. So I've had this pipe since, I don't know, around 19, 20 years, something like this. And she's been everywhere. She has been everywhere you can imagine. So that's kind of charming point. Because anyway, if we're going to use the plastic, let's use it for as long as possible. Yeah. She's been from US to Palestine to Japan to Taiwan to India, Nepal, Switzerland, France, Spain. Been everywhere. This funny little pipe.
You must get funny looks when you go through the customs or like the detectors.
Certainly, yeah. They're very curious because it does look suspicious.
A little bit, yeah.
Then they say, well, what is this? And can you play it? And then when I play it, they're,
nice.
Amazing, nice, thank you. So it actually maybe brightens their day.
Yeah.
Because this is a hard job, right?
Yeah, obviously. You kind of get suspicious, so your mood is on like a cat, and then you're relaxed. Okay.
It does look like a pipe with 4 letters, yes. It does look a bit suspicious, a sort of pipe that would do other things than it should. So in fact, yeah, it's simply a Thailand-made pipe for water, and it's split in the middle, so I can take it apart, and it's half-half. And it's tuned to, I think, something E or something like that. And I can tune it slightly, so I can play with whatever Western musicians. And,
very good point that it can take apart into 2 pieces. Yes. Otherwise, 1 meter 80 or something would be tough to get on the airplane.
In the past, you could use this could be carry-on luggage. So that's rather interesting as well. People, what's this? And when they know what it is, because actually it's a flute, and it actually functions as a case for other flutes. Flute and a flute. And it's very simple, but it has a strong impact, and it's something that looks not how it sounds, in fact.
Right.
So simplistic, difficult, and very kind of contrary. It's an enigma type instrument, and almost impossible to play. And I seem to be the only one in the world presently who plays this. And there are, many harmonic pipes throughout the planet.
Yeah.
There's no lack of these. And then the original harmonic pipes would be just open tubes. So if you blow across an open tube, just simply that, you will get a harmonic series. The law of music becomes from that, right? So you automatically have certain rules that will never change. And that's kind of the beauty of it, whether it's plastic or reed or metal or what have you. So these exist in Sahel, they exist in Central and Eastern Europe, they exist in Papua New Guinea, they exist in Somalia, parts of India. There's many, many kinds of these things. So it's kind of fundamental, and I'm sort of taking it to this time, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, very beautiful instrument. If I had my eyes closed and you would play this, as you said, it would sound a lot like Fuyara. And I would be like, hey, that's something from home. And now that you tell me that the instrument is from completely different regions, so you see how similar, even across half a globe, are the instruments, but there's still some similarities,
certainly,
even dating back to how many years before. Yeah,
and we are one. That is I think what human, if I may be philosophical, human species could perhaps remember that we are one, in fact, and we're dependent upon each other, and we are basically, it seems to be from one actual species itself, regardless of the race and such. So that's kind of a fascinating thing. We are here to bring each other, kind of together, what have you. And this is a moment where humans it's a golden age of movement, really, in a sense. So we actually can see how similar we are. There's differences, certainly. So this pipe I'm blowing across, really just everywhere I go, people, they say, well, you don't really know this, but we kind of know what this is somehow. Because it's just the harmonic series. That's it. It's just the harmonic series, except for it's extended a bit. This is around 28 in internal diameter, and it's around 170 centimeters. So it's a bit taken beyond the normal ratios that we would use. So simple.
Excellent. I have two quick questions for you. One would be, from all the wind-blowing instruments, do you have a specific one that you played around with, or maybe a one that is still with you right now, that still until this day just blows your mind at how it works? That it looks so simple, but it just takes lifetime to master.
An oddity, yeah, this would be definitely from one of the cradles of humanity, apparently. This is called Nifara, and this is from it's a copy I made in Japanese bamboo. It's a flute from 4-holed flute and closed on both sides. So it works as an ocarina, yet it has no embouchure, it's just a blowhole. And then this is played between an oblique and a transverse, like a side flute, right? So basically you're getting a half-half, so you have to retrain your mouth to play it. And then this would be from Sahel, the southern part of Sahara, Mauritania today, black population, not Arab population, between Mauritania and Mali. And there's many, many kinds of this throughout that region of Africa, but this is this version. It's a bit more bass, and it took me quite a while to get my mouth to move on it. And yeah, I play it in my style. Okay, so we kind of have a blues machine here, made of bamboo from the southern part of Sahara today. And then the ethnicity, I don't know which ethnicity plays this, unfortunately. But they're definitely black, and they're definitely ancient people. And Sahara that time was not a desert, right? Yeah. So that's the key point. And theirs nowadays are probably from plastic covered in leather. And then this one is from bamboo. And then the coastal peoples I've heard had from bamboo, of course.
Right.
Because the region is dry, so you would need to oil it a lot. So this is a curious one. Let's see if we can get it going or not. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely different sound for sure.
Different colors, sandy, we can say, really part of the older world, and kind of blues, right?
Yeah, it could definitely fit for sure.
In the blues range. So this tunes, strangely enough, as a shakuhachi. So I have no sample of this instrument. I saw it on the internet, frankly. And I heard the sound. I said, okay, I kind of know what you're going for, because I have to reproduce it from the sound and from visual. So I had a shakuhachi, actually, because I live in Japan, right? So I made, and it was a 2.4 or something like this. The length was fairly long. And then basically what it is you take off the back hole, right? So you have this 1, 3, 4, 5, 7 scale, roughly. And the third is a bit minor. Then you cut off the bottom, because it doesn't really work, because you got to close the bottom. So it becomes like a Helmholtz resonator, right? It's actually a closed-ended flute. So it functions completely different than a shakuhachi, but in fact had very similar hole positions as the shakuhachi, strangely enough. So strangely enough, somehow shakuhachi, this Japanese classical Zen flute, somehow has very deep connections to Black Africa. Many, many Black African flutes actually are very similar tuning to the shakuhachi.
Yeah.
Very curious. And ancient Native Americans, long before the Western, whatever white people settled there, are tuned to a very similar scale as this minor pentatonic.
Uh-huh.
So it seems somehow rather universal.
Very
Strangely enough.
bluesy, as you say.
Uh,
Thank you. My last question, very last question. I highly appreciate somebody just taking the time to dedicate to whatever mission or art they're with, whether it's painting or something, and music is no exception. So I just want to say I appreciate anybody going so deeply into music and dedicating basically their whole life into music and instrument. That's just beautiful. So with that in mind, I would like to ask if somebody would be looking for an advice to go into music, or any words that you would like to pass on to your past self, something related with your journey, with your music, what would it be?
Play every day, even if it's 5 minutes, if it's 5 hours, 5 years. You don't have 5 years. But play every day, play in the toilet, play in the kitchen, play, enjoy it, play when you're walking. You know, it depends on your instrument, of course. But the more you do it, it's like a flight time, right? In terms of becoming a pilot. The more you do it, the people I've met who are, you know, brilliant, I would say they play a lot. Regardless of whether they have another job or what have you, that's not an issue even slightly. We can always find 5 minutes in our day. If you play daily, you just see that natural growth and sort of, you see the mistakes, you see the regressions, you see the progressions. So it becomes part of you and your muscular memory takes over, and then it becomes automatism, right? This concept of something that becomes automatic that you do without almost even thinking, and you lose yourself. And that's when art is great, right?
Very beautiful.
If I may say that.
That's all I have. What's that?
This is, I don't speak it correctly in Mandarin, but kohangshin. This is actually my main instrument.
That's your main instrument?
Actually, my main one. So this would be anyway, a vibrating reed, and I came for the World Jaw Harp Festival, right? So in your language, it might be drumla.
Oh, I wouldn't even know.
Anyway, so just a little taste, because this is fairly pleasurable.